In 1942, in the heart of World War II, a battle took place that changed the course of human history forever. It was a fight between man and machine that pushed the boundaries of what was possible and left an indelible mark on those who fought it. The battle took place at an altitude of over 20. They were flying the Bf 109, the most advanced fighter plane that Germany had to offer at the time. They knew that they were outnumbered and outgunned, and that the odds were stacked against them. Jaeger was a natural pilot, and he had already become a legend in the skies over Europe. This advanced aircraft was designed to take on the American bombers, and it was armed with powerful cannons that could fire over 2,000 rounds per minute. Many of them were just young men who had been thrust into a war that they didn't understand. The Allies had won the day, and the scars of that victory would be felt for years to come. Without the protection of their air forces, the Allies would not have been able to launch their bombing campaign, and the outcome of the war could have been very different. The battle also showed the importance of innovation and technology. The pilots who fought in this battle were not just numbers in a military report. They were real people with families and loved ones who had hopes and dreams for the future. It was a battle that changed the course of history, and it left an indelible mark on the world. Let us remember the lessons of this battle and work towards a future where such conflicts never repeat themselves. The battle left many of them physically and psychologically scarred, and it serves as a reminder of the importance of peace and understanding. The introduction of the Me-260 demonstrated that the future of warfare would be in the hands of those who were willing to embrace new technologies. However, it also showed that technology alone was not enough. The Germans lacked the resources and infrastructure to fully develop and utilize the Me-262, and it ultimately became a liability rather than an asset. The battle for the skies had been won, but the war was far from over. The Allies and the Axis powers would continue to fight for several more years, and the scars of that conflict would last for generations. They were forced to make life or death decisions in a matter of seconds, and they were constantly under the threat of death. The psychological toll of this was immense, and many of the pilots suffered from anxiety and depression. The German pilots were highly skilled and experienced, but they were still no match for the sheer firepower of the liberators. The battle showed that, in order to win wars, it takes more than just brave pilots and advanced aircraft. On this day, we remember the pilots who fought in this battle, and we pay tribute to their bravery and sacrifice. We also use this day to reflect on the lessons of the past and to strive for a better future. It takes a well-trained and experienced military force that is prepared to face any challenge. Some of them never recovered from their experiences, and they were haunted by the memories of their fallen comrades for the rest of their lives. But despite its power, the Me-262 was not without its limitations. It was difficult to control, and it was vulnerable to enemy fire. Still, the Germans hoped that it would give them the edge they needed to win the war. However, the Me-262 would not have the impact that the Germans had hoped for. Despite its advanced technology, it was no match for the sheer firepower of the liberators. In the end, the Me-262 would become a symbol of German innovation and ingenuity, but it would also become a reminder of the cost of war. But he, too, was affected by the horrors of war. He had seen too much death and destruction, and he was haunted by the faces of his fallen comrades. However, Jaeger was determined to make the ultimate sacrifice if necessary to win the war. He knew that the battle for the skies was far from over, and that the fate of the world hung in the balance. And so he and his fellow pilots took to the skies once again, ready to do whatever it took to win the war. Despite this, they continued to fight bravely, taking on the Allies in one final stand. The battle was fierce and the casualties were heavy, but the Germans were eventually forced to retreat. The Allies had won the day, and the scars of that victory would be felt for years to come. These planes were sleek and powerful, and they were armed with machine guns. But they were no match for the sheer firepower of the liberators. As the fight began, the Germans were caught off guard. The Allies were using a new tactic that involved flying in large formations, which made them much more difficult to attack. To make matters worse, the liberators were heavily escorted by P-36 and P-40 fighters. As the battle raged on, the Germans began to take heavy losses. Many of them were shot down, and some even crashed due to mechanical failures. Mulders, however, refused to give up. He and his wingmen continued to fight bravely, taking out as many bombers as they could. But it was a losing battle, and soon they found themselves surrounded by enemy aircraft. With their ammunition running low and their planes damaged, Mulders and his wingmen were forced to bail out. As they parachuted out of the sky, they watched helplessly as their comrades were taken out one by one until there was no one left. They had lost the battle, and the scars of that defeat would stay with them forever. 0 feet above sea level, where the participants were German fighter pilots, known as the Luftwaffe, and some of the most advanced aircraft ever built at the time, America's B-24 Liberator bombers. These planes were heavily armed with machine guns and cannons, and they were flying in large formations, escorted by hundreds of fighters. The Germans had deployed their best pilots to take them on. And yet, despite their skill and experience, many of them would soon find themselves fighting for their very survival. This wasn't just another dogfight. It was a fight for dominance in the skies, and ultimately for control of the world. And it would leave scars that would last for generations. The story began in the summer of 1942 when the Allies launched a massive bombing campaign against Germany. The Luftwaffe was caught off guard and soon found itself stretched to its limits. As the Allies continued to push forward, the Germans were forced to deploy their ace pilots to the front lines. Among them was a young pilot named Werner Mulders. Mulders was a natural pilot, and he quickly rose through the ranks of the Luftwaffe. He was known for his skill and bravery, and he had already shot down several enemy aircraft. But he was about to face his greatest challenge yet. On August 11, 1942, Mulders and his wingmen were dispatched to intercept a large formation of American bombers. As the war dragged on, Mulders and other German pilots continued to fight, but they were haunted by the ghosts of their fallen comrades. Among the survivors of the battle was a young American pilot named Chuck Yeager. One of the most remarkable aspects of the battle was the introduction of the Me-262, the world's first jet fighter. One of the most heartbreaking aspects of the battle was the toll it took on the pilots. As the battle raged on, the Allies continued to push forward and the Germans were forced to retreat. One of the most important lessons that can be learned from the battle is the importance of air superiority. Another important lesson that can be learned from the battle is the importance of training and experience. Finally, the battle for the skies over Germany is a reminder of the human cost of war. Today, the memory of the battle for the skies over Germany is honored each year on August 11th. As we look back on the battle for the skies over Germany, we are reminded of the importance of courage, innovation, and peace. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more historical content. Thank you for watching.